Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 700 Club. 2 weeks ago, Israel launched its assault on Iran's military and nuclear program. Now there's talk that the success of Operation Rising Lion can reshape the Middle East.
Both Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump believe Israel's victory sets the stage to end the war in Gaza and expand the Abraham Accords. CBN's Julie Stahl has that story.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he and President Trump have a plan to bring broad and peaceful changes to the Middle East, made possible by the humbling of Iran in the 12-day war.
This victory opens up an opportunity for a dramatic expansion of the peace agreements. We're working on this vigorously. Along with the release of our hostages and the defeat of Hamas, there's a window of opportunity here that must not be missed. Not even a single day must be wasted.
The leaders envision a halt to the Gaza war in 2 weeks, with Israel ending its military campaign and Hamas releasing the remaining 50 hostages. Hamas leaders would go into exile and 4 Arab nations would rule Gaza together. Major roadblocks could derail the plan. Hamas leaders refuse to leave Gaza, and Arab nations insist the Palestinian Authority have a role in governing a post-Hamas Gaza, a condition Israel refuses to accept. The U.S. and Israel are also signaling more Arab states are ready to join the Abraham Accords, bringing peace between the Jewish nation and millions more Muslims in the region. Thursday, top Trump administration officials gave senators a classified briefing on the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. However, Democrat and Republican senators came away with opposite impressions.
To me, it still appears that we have only set back the Iranian nuclear program by a handful of months.
They blew these places up in a major league way. Major league setback, years, not months.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says the uranium-enriching centrifuges deep underground at Fordo are no longer operational. As for the rest of Iran's nuclear program,
annihilation, total destruction, etc. I don't know. What I can tell you, and I think everyone agrees on this, there is very, very, very considerable damage.
Iran's supreme leader, in his first public statement in nearly 2 weeks, is downplaying the U.S. strikes. He says, quote, they failed to do anything significant. And he's claiming a huge victory over Israel. In Gaza, the State Department is coming alongside the U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation by giving $30 million and asking other countries to donate.
A track record of distributing over 46 million meals distributed to date, all while preventing Hamas looting, is absolutely incredible and should be commended and supported.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Iran may be downplaying the strikes, but obviously they are weakened and shaken, and as a result, they are now in the process of, many reports are showing, the BBC is writing about how they are executing Iranians accused of helping spy for Israel. They've lost a lot of high-profile commanders and scientists. Reports are saying there were 3 executions of Iranians during the 12-day conflict, 3 the day after the ceasefire, possibly as many as 700 people arrested, and now human rights groups are worried about forced confessions. So this is another part of the story we'll be watching for you. In other news, a Supreme Court decision delivers a blow to Planned Parenthood. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from our CBN newsroom. Ephraim.
Andrew, the ruling allows states to cut Planned Parenthood from Medicaid programs, giving pro-life advocates a leg up in restricting abortion. CBN's Brody Carter reports.
The 6-3 decision ruled that Medicaid recipients don't have the right to sue states that disqualify Planned Parenthood from the program. The decision will empower other states that want to restrict funds going to the abortion provider.
States should be free to defund and redirect their taxpayer dollars that Americans by majority do not want going toward funding abortions, to other comprehensive, real, life-affirming care in their states, and this will give them the ability to do so.
Gabriella McIntyre, legal counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom's Center for Life, told CBN's Faith Nation that the case centers on Medicaid's Any Qualified Provider rule, which normally lets patients choose any eligible doctor or clinic. But the court found Medicaid recipients can't sue if states exclude a qualified provider even if it limits their care.
And essentially what this means in practical terms is that the states are now free, not just South Carolina, but any state that wishes to do so is free to disqualify and defund Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers from its Medicaid funding.
The case isn't technically about abortion, but it is about public funding for the nation's largest abortion provider. Conservative states like South Carolina, Texas, and Florida have long tried to defund Planned Parenthood, and this ruling gives them the green light by cutting off Medicaid dollars and eliminating patient lawsuits.
It means that South Carolinians who are enrolled in Medicaid may ultimately no longer be able to use that coverage at our health centers in South Carolina for birth control, cancer screenings, STI testing and treatment.
McIntyre says there are healthcare facilities that don't include abortion services.
There are nearly 200 other clinics in the state that provide comprehensive, real health care to women, things that include reproductive and family planning services, cancer screenings, things of that nature.
Congress created Medicaid to give low-income Americans access to health care. Planned Parenthood accuses South Carolina's governor of using anti-abortion politics to block basic health care for low-income communities. Brody Carter, CBN News.
In Missouri, a college student is thankful to be alive after a terrifying experience. Driving home from college, Mia Grimes found herself in the middle of an F3 tornado. She told CBN's Charlene Aaron about her miracle survival and how it's now serving to inspire others.
Driving just outside of St. Louis on May 16th, Maya Grimes noticed the sky turn dark as she talked to her dad on the phone.
It just looked like there was a storm coming. So I stayed on the phone with him, and then about a minute passed since we started the phone call, and then the trees started to fall down on both sides of the street. And so I was screaming into the phone, "Dad, the trees are falling, the trees are falling, the trees are falling."
Before she knew it, Maya found herself in the middle of an EF3 tornado. She shared her frightening experience recently on CBN's Prayer Link.
The trees were falling on both sides of the street. If I swerved onto the other side of the street, I would have swerved into incoming traffic. And then if I would have stayed on the side that I was on, I would have gotten hit by the big oak trees falling on the street called Union. So I ended up driving over a tree, and that's kind of when everything just took a turn.
You were caught right in the middle of all of it, and your car started spinning in circles. You were holding on to your steering wheel for dear life. What was going through your mind as your car is spinning around like that?
My car started spinning in circles and spinning and spinning. And at the same time as it started spinning, I remember the rain had just started pouring down like right before that point. And there was a lot of hail. So the hail was hitting my car. The rain was pouring down. And like before I could even process that, the car just started spinning in circles. And I was just holding onto the wheel screaming, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus."
Then the powerful storm suddenly blew out the windows of Maya's car.
I was just thinking, as the windows were all busting out on me on every side of my car, that was it, and that I just, wanted to make it as fast and hopefully painless as possible if those were to be my last moment. I was ejected from my car through the driver's side door, and I slid down the street about 40 yards in the rain and with, the debris and everything falling in the middle of the street.
Maya grabbed onto a light post, the only thing left standing, and held on for dear life. After the wind died down, she flagged down a nearby ambulance for help, suffering only a few cuts and bruises, for which she gives God all the credit. While the rising senior says her near-death experience was traumatic, it's also strengthened her relationship with Jesus, a story she now shares across social media to point others to the one true lifesaver.
I'm 20 years old, and I know that a lot of people my age may be on the fence or kind of struggling with their faith. And so the reason for me posting was just to say, get right with God, because life is so uncertain. The plans that we have for ourselves are not always the plans that God has for us. And this whole situation really just put that into perspective, how serious life is and just how important it is to make sure that other people also know the importance of getting right and forming a real relationship with God.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
But a powerful testimony. Andrew and Terry?
Yeah, Ephraim. And Charlene, thank you for reporting on that. An EF3 tornado, Terry, is rare. Less than 5% of tornadoes hit those speeds and go up to 165. Imagine being in the car and the blast starts. That is some terrifying stuff.
Well, and she's a young girl. Can imagine her father hearing her yelling all of this into the phone, and there's nothing you can do. Wow.
And it's interesting, she's not just giving God glory for her survival and protection, but that extra step of life is fragile.
Yep.
Right? We don't know our last day. Get right with God. That's a message you don't often hear out of these survival
not
testimonies.
at 20, but you go.
Yeah.
That's great.